What's up? We're in the second part. Please go check out the previous part to gauge your bearings to understand what's going on. As an entitlement, ne? In the previous part, I was, you will have to go to the, I'm not going to reiterate, please, have mercy. You're going to have to gain that context. The level of entitlement in our men, in the black community, is astronomical. I am disinclined to generalize. It's hard not to, but nonetheless, just in case there are some out there that aren't this crazy, I apologize if you feel just clumped in with the rest of them. But there's just so many of them that are so incredibly rubbishy that I am willing to bet on my life right here, right now, that all black women watching my content will come to some kind of agreement with me that they also have at some point or another felt severely harassed by the persistence of our men to capitulate to their wild fantasies. Wild fantasies. Do you understand? Because apparently, allegedly, there's nothing else out here that we have as an option. Once you go black, you don't go back. Apparently, allegedly. And so they disrespect the living daylights out of us. They don't love us. They are, guys, you know what? Black men are literally the only race of men that I have found on the internet that have dedicated, I'm doing my edits, that's why I'm looking up there, that have dedicated entire YouTube channels. I have never found a single white man, an Asian man, an Indian. I've never ever found a Puerto Rican, a Mexican. Literally, it's only ever been black men from whatever country, be it in Africa somewhere around these streets, or even in America or in Europe. They are the only demographic of men that have dedicated entire freaking YouTube channels to reviling women. Only black men. Like literally, it's only black, unless of course, yes, if like it's not unfortunate. It's actually quite right that I don't have a comment section because I don't want to get offended. But if I had a comment section, I would actually ask whoever is watching me if at all they can send me a link to any video where a white guy, a Chinese guy, an Indian guy, a Mexican, any other race but black is out here ranting in a video about the worthlessness of women. About the worthlessness of women. Only black men dedicate entire freaking chunky YouTube channels to bringing women low. They call us, hey guys, as in they have like they treat us like rubbish. They call us worthless, aimless, bitter, that they've got options in these streets and white women everywhere else. They say they counsel each other to literally ignore us. They advise each other to ignore us when we are hurting, when we're crying, when we're complaining, when we're raising issues, when we're putting stuff forward. They advise each other to just let a crying woman cry until she shuts up. Until she shuts up. If you think about babies, right? When I was studying psychology, well, I did psychology 1 or 2 years in varsity. And we were studying trauma in babies, trauma bonding in babies. And a case study was done of a couple of babies who were neglected, like just ignored when they were crying. Basically, that study was to prove that when you are frustrated by a baby's crying, it does not do any good for you to ignore that baby. You just have to be mature and realize that babies are too baby. They're too baby to actually really truly try to spite a parent. And so if they just keep on crying and crying and crying, they're not trying to irritate you. They're too baby. They're too little. Their cognition has not developed. Their minds have not developed. They're not going out of their way to act sick in front of you. They're not yet 2 or 3. They are only just 10 months old. So if they keep crying all night long, you cannot ignore them. You have to be awake all night long. You have to deal with that colic all night long. You have to embrace them all night long. Otherwise, you might create literally problems going well into that child's adulthood permanently, despite the fact that they will have endured the trauma of being ignored as just babies. The studies that were done were on women who decided that they were going to teach their children, their babies, a lesson because they cried too much and they were exhausted. Women who suffered from like postpartum depression or whatever, they imagined themselves as ones who were exhausted, and frankly this baby is doing this on purpose. This baby is taking away my sleep on purpose. And so they just ignored the baby. They just ignored the baby crying and crying all night long, just crying and crying and crying until eventually the baby shut up. And this happened over a couple of nights where the mother made an observation that, look, if I ignore this baby's cries for long enough, it'll eventually just keep quiet on its own. And then this was done to babies, not experimentally, but just as an observation. It was done because it would have been, of course, human testing and therefore unethical to do it experimentally. This was done on babies for pretty much every single time that they cried. Pretty much every single time that they cried. They were ignored until they shut up. These babies not only became withdrawn, but they did not develop personalities. They were slower in their development in comparison to other kids. So when other kids stood up to walk, these babies did not walk. They still continued to crawl. They were slow to grasp understanding in school. Basic knowledge, they were not able to latch onto it, like reading, writing, arithmetic. They were just, and as time progressed, it was discovered that these ignored babies became toddlers and then pre-teens and then teenagers that had not only development issues, were slow in comparison to their peers, but also severely struggled to actually learn, to study. They ended up, some of those kids, having to be put in special schools for learning disabilities, when that could have been entirely prevented if at all the parent actually paid attention to them as they cried. So it is it's violently detrimental to the health of a baby to ignore it when it is crying all night long. It is our responsibility as grown-ups to take in our stride that we have babies. It is unfortunate, my freedoms are gone, my sleep is gone, but at least it's temporary. Frankly, it's temporary for like 2 years. It's temporary because the crying baby all night long at some point stops being the crying baby all night long, because the baby then becomes big enough to stop crying all night. But for those months, you have to ride it out. It's a storm that parents gotta ride out. And so that's why it's so important to have a supportive husband who does not only allow the wife to be the one waking up so that they can take turns or whatever, that this child might always be awarded attention, because ain't no like 7-month-old baby trying to spite no mom, no dad. That stuff is not happening. So to assume that that's what's going on is to literally set your child up for failure well into the future. When I, as that parent that ignored the baby that was crying, have got this kid in grade 5 that is failing math, while that kid's sibling that had a little bit more attention is somehow flying and soaring in school. They were born from the same gene pool. Why aren't they doing similarly in school? It is because of how in the world that both kids were raised. The one kid was ignored while the other one was paid attention to. So essentially, and again, if at all you don't touch a baby, we know that it dies. The Lord has never intended for the human race to ignore anybody. The Lord's intention upon fashioning us never ever intended for us to ever be ignored by anyone. We were supposed to love each other, care for each other, fend for one another. We were supposed to cuddle and love and kiss babies and, pinch their cheeks and all that jazz. We were supposed to do that. And as we get older, we were supposed to maintain that affection for one another that people might be maintained in health. So why do you think black women are losing their minds? Why do you think they're so cold? Why do you think we look like this? Why do you think under heaven my life looks like what it is that it looks like? Why are black women not coming to my cause? Why are they not coming to my cause? It is written in God's word, husbands, love your wives the way that Christ loved the church. Women are to respect their husbands, evidencing that it is very important for a woman to receive love in a way that it is very important for a man to receive respect. And so when you withhold affection from a woman, you potentially are doing to a woman was done to a baby. Those babies in that study who were ignored, and then later on they could not even pass in school. They could not develop. They could not run on time, walk on time. They could not get to their crawling stages on time. They were behind. They failed in school. They had relationship issues, as in they were withdrawn in school, couldn't make friends easily. Entire personalities were awarded these babies by irresponsible parenting, by disregard, by people being entirely aloof towards them. So if at all it happens with babies, what is likely the version of that in the life of a woman? The Lord has made it clear that it's very important for women to receive love. And when our men go out of their way to make sure that we don't get it, like I said, there are entire YouTube channels by black men dedicated to bringing down black women. And they counsel each other to flat out ignore us. Reverse psychology is a big fat chunky issue in the black community, where a man who is out of his mind in love with you will act like he don't care. He will literally act like he don't care. He will withhold compliments. He will withhold affection. He will withhold all different kinds of things just to basically, what he calls, put you in your place. There was this dumb YouTube channel video that I watched once upon a time of a man that prided himself in subduing his wife to a lack of affection by subduing his wife to Antarctica, to live in an igloo. And he said that my wife is typically very beautiful. And so all the guys in these streets used to want her. But the way that I got my wife is by ignoring her in a way that other guys paid attention to her. Imagine that. That's a woman with psychological issues to go and marry the one man out of all the men in these streets that did not treat her like a woman deserves to be treated. The one guy that mistreated her, that ignored her, that put her in her place, and basically told her with this behavior, you might be pretty, but literally get over yourself. A man that comes into a relationship telling a woman to get over herself, putting her in her place, or what he calls her place, and she chooses him. Why are black women so drawn to these abusive psychopaths? Why are black women so drawn to men who withhold affection? Why do they marry men who do not care about them? Why do they choose to walk down the aisle to the one guy that was least affectionate towards them in comparison to all of her ex-boyfriends? Why do they do that? It's because we've been trained to grovel and pant and salivate after men who ignore us. Because of the fact that inherently deep down inside we desire love as women. That is our, what do you call this? I would even go so far as to call it a judgment, but it wouldn't be a judgment if men actually loved us. From now on, your desire will be for your husbands. That's what God said to Adam and Eve, to Eve, after they fell. From now on, your desire will be for your husband. The only reason why that would be a curse is if Adam does not give the affection or the attention that Eve wants. And so it becomes a thorn in her flesh. It becomes a thorn in her flesh. But if at all, you train women like they're dogs, like proper classical conditioning. Guys, let's talk. Wait a second, we're going to have a discussion before we get into the Sonia V. Bozeman and Timothy Bloom. That is apparently allegedly the only thing that I need out here in these streets. Why it is that the black women, we have been so super hypersexualized that we're even taking it in our stride that our men are converting us into triple X porn stars when we are entire wives. We are supposed to be above reproach, made honest women out of, and yet these men treat us like the fetishes that they have from all the porn that they consume. Men across all races watch porn, but within the black community, like I said, our men withhold affection from us and make it look as if though it is love to merely just be had sexually, to merely just be rammed into. They equate sex with love. They equate it with love in a way that then reduces you to a porn star who does not have to get love, just manhood. All she gets is sex. The guy does not have to show her any affection. He doesn't even have to kiss her. He just has sex with her. When then love is equated with sex, it is therefore romanticized the prospect of being made love to. And you not being made love to, or the withholding of your person from physical intimacy, then becomes the be all and end all of what we salivate after, to a point of thinking that as long as I'm getting this and it's good, that's all that I need. It is no wonder we are crazy. It is no wonder we are falling apart as women. It is no wonder we are so unsupportive. It is no wonder black women in my dream were trying to push me into fornication because they imagine that the only way that I can, be truly loved and enjoy this world and this life is to have sex. When your men have hypersexualized you because they don't award you real love, true love, real love, actual love, but just sex, you will think that you are a loved wife when your husband gives you good sex and that's it. That's what you will think. When there's so much missing, so much. Like mutual respect, like care, like compliments, like a validation. It is the woman's curse at the point of Eve to desire her husband. And if at all your man awards you with love, you will be the happiest woman on the earth. But if your man perverts love, downgrades it to just mere sex, you are going to think you're happy, and then you will be like Medusa, embittered and unsupportive towards a woman that disagrees with you when you claim you're loved. You will want to show her that this is the only way that love goes. Thoroughly. You will do that. And with men teaching us to take scraps of sexual intensity as love, with us being taught that what I am therefore is considered arrogant in the black community. It is considered naive in the black community. It is considered like vainly ambitious for me to actually desire to be doted over by a man that's going to actually love me the way that Christ loved the church. And we're going to get into that just now, but not first before talking about Pavlov's dogs. Classical conditioning. So you can understand how far from grace and glory we have fallen as black women. There was a time when we were loved. In the days of oppression, it's unfortunate that black people were at some point in systematic oppression, and so for those reasons, we could never really truly be happy at any time in history. We could never be happy. But there are women in history that have experienced real black love. But unfortunately for them, they were also oppressed by the system. So we don't have any yardstick or any barometer by which to measure true love and true happiness in the black family. Because at a time when we were systematically oppressed, we were unhappy because of that. However, the women, they were loved. They were loved. Men knew how to pursue women, how to love them, our men. They knew how to pursue us and how to love us. And then when we started, it's that when we got free, when we came out of oppression, there then was pursuing us. The whole issue of black men having been robbed of the ability to truly, thoroughly, and comprehensively provide for women because of their own enslavement. They then were at the same time awarded opportunities with women. And with them being awarded opportunities at the same time as women, they therefore never had a history of being trained how to be fully provider for a woman in a happy ecosystem where no one is afflicting you for being black, where the woman is walking in old school womanhood, old school roles, old school whatever it is that was allowable for women to do back in the day. So with men having never been trained within joy to love women, but they could only love us when we were all suffering because all of us were reduced to nothing by systems of this world. When then women started to make the same, when women were able to provide similarly to the way that men were able to provide, with men having never been given an opportunity to be happily sole provider in an ecosystem where they're not persecuted, they were like, inherently that thing inside them that wants to rule women made them have a whole bunch of apprehension against what would be the tantamount of the equivalent of independent women. And so we've never ever caught a break as black girls ever since our liberation, because we got liberated and all black people were able to now get into commerce and industry. And with the power of black women being able to run the show themselves, black men felt like, what am I supposed to do in this equation if at all you're making all that? So now they then made a decision to withhold from us affection because that was a way of punishing us for being so strong, just like them. So now they developed this whole rhetoric of utterly and comprehensively withholding from us affection because it was withheld. Not it was withheld from them, sorry, but because of the fact that we were walking in what they called their manhood. We were walking in a strength that they imagined it was for theirs to walk in. It was for theirs to walk in. How else can I describe this? White men have always had the patriarchal power across societies. They had their chance to be the sole providers, and men in the comprehensive regard where women are in the house, barefoot, pregnant, cooking, being wives, while they are the only ones getting the bread, and within a happy society where they're not oppressed. They got to be men for a very long time, and so therefore they got to be trained genteel manners and how to be towards women, such that when their women complained and we were like, no, I want to work, nah, I want to vote, nah, I want to do ABC, they initially resisted it until these women threw their toys out the cot so much that these men were like, okay, fine, go work. So the manners were entrenched in them from the very beginning, from the get-go. And so once women became strong, it's not like they had no background or foundation of in and of themselves having been strong. Plus, they're the ones that awarded the women strength. They're the ones that relinquished their power. That's what I'm getting at. They were like, okay, fine, we'll give you a piece of our pie. We will give you a piece of our empires, and you will then come and work in our corporates. So their chauvinism reduced, but their, treatment of women did not go out the window with their reduction of chauvinism. They did not make a decision to punish women with a lack of affection because now they were being strong, given that they had already been trained to this thing. But with black men, we were all treated like trash from the very get-go. We were all treated like little children. They were all called boys and we were all called girls, even though we were entire adults. And so by the time the female liberation movement set women free, black women were coming out from slavery with black men, and they all just ended up taking on whatever was the piece of the pie of the earth's resources, at the same time with black men having never been given an opportunity to truly be men. And so they stopped loving us. Prior to systematic oppression, they loved their wives. They were then oppressed, and they still loved their wives. But after oppression ended, they stopped. They literally just stopped loving women. And the way that they handle us is by classical conditioning. It's literally classical conditioning. It's like we are Pavlov's dogs. Remember I said earlier, according to the book of Genesis, that Eve's judgment, her punishment for sinning with Adam was, from now on, your desire will be for your husbands. It is therefore comprehended by men inherently deep down inside somewhere that women need love. And so how do you put them in their place, given that they're busy taking your place, according to them, apparently, allegedly? How do you put them in their place? Take love away. It has worked like a well-oiled machine. The devil has given them a wonderful idea, frankly. It works. It works. Take affection away, and they will do what you want. This is the way that you will punish them. Adam's judgment was to rule Eve. So seeing as he can't rule her, given that she's basically taking care of herself, he then withholds from her that which Eve's judgment is. From now on, your desire will be for your husband. Eve will still continue to desire her husband. Adam will still want to rule her. So he will rule her by withholding affection. For crying out loud. He rules her by withholding affection. And in withholding affection, produces a groveling, panting, needy dog out of Eve. Give me love, give me love, give me love. It's literally like the Hunger Games of affection. The Hunger Games of affection. So let me tell you about the experiment that is Pavlov's dog's experiment. In psychology, the classical conditioning experiment. So Pavlov had these dogs, and there was he came up with this idea to train behavior, to see if at all he can't teach dogs, train his dogs to walk in a particular behavior. By embarking on this experiment, he had these dogs, and there was this metronome. But in modern day experiments of Pavlov's dogs experiment, they sometimes use a bell, like a clicking, 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 clicking. But I believe the original experiment was done with a metronome. You know, a Molly metronome, and Bus Street is my home. Experiment. I'm sorry, if you're not South African, you wouldn't even know what I'm talking about. Metronome, like a little talk that goes. Anyway, whatever. This metronome, all right, or this ringing bell was paired with meat. These dogs, their food, basically, right? So there is meat, and herein lies a metronome or a ringing bell, and then herein lies the dogs. And so Pavlov was trying to train his dogs to salivate. He was trying to train them to essentially walk in a particular behavior based on a particular paired stimulus. The bell was a paired paired stimulus that was paired together with a paired response. So the stimulus was the clicking, 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 or the ticking metronome, right? While at the same time, every time, so first Pavlov would tick the metronome, or it could be the bell, right? And then the dogs would, at the time of the ticking metronome, they would be fed meat. They would be given meat at the time. So the clicking, 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 and the dogs would hear the cling. When they hear the cling, they would be given meat. And this happened over a couple of repetitions. They were given meat at the clicking, clicking, meat at the clicking, clicking, meat at the metronome, meat at the metronome. They did this for a very long amount of time until the dogs basically started to salivate every time they heard a clicking, clicking, or every time they heard a metronome. Every time they heard clicking, clicking, they went and they panted because they expected that they would get meat. So that stimulus was paired with the response of salivating, because there was an anticipation of eating food, and so they salivated after that food. And then Ivan Pavlov extracted the meat out of the equation, and clicking, 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 the bell or the metronome. And despite there being no meat awarded to the dogs at the ticking metronome or at the ringing bell, they still continued to salivate. As such that now Pavlov had trained behavior in dogs to salivate at the tick of a metronome or at the ringing of a bell, even when there was no reward. So the paired stimulus with the paired response was linked to the reward in the end. But when they removed the reward, the dogs continued to salivate anyway. And so now here it is that we've got these like panting dogs, salivating dogs, trying to eat food, would there be no food? And every time they heard that metronome, they salivated whether or not there was meat. That's a behavior trained in you. But guess what's missing? The meat. Classical conditioning is used across the world for nefarious purposes all over the show, but also for good. It can train children new behaviors. It can train mentally ill patients to respond a typical way whenever certain paired stimuluses with responses are done, etc. It can be used for good, but it can also be used for exorbitant evil. And here it is that black men have used classical conditioning, known or unbeknownst to themselves really, in a very nefarious capacity. And in this particular instance, the paired stimulus, otherwise known as the ringing bell, would be, I guess, the equivalent or the tantamount of the black man himself. The actual black man himself. The man himself. While, the paired response would be desire, salivating, panting, a want, a rolling over, a sitting, like basically do what I want you to do. While the meat is love. The meat is love. The paired stimuli is the black man. The paired response is the black woman's behavior in the climate of a black man. while love, affection itself, is the meat. And initially, these men gave us love. Like I told you, historically, we have a history of having love. They award you with love. So you see a man, you flirt, you court, you dance around each other, you draw circles on the floor, you fall in love. He treats you right, he buys you flowers, he wines, he dines you, he does all these things. He's really, really well, treating of you. He does all that. It's just so incredibly unfortunate. And then somewhere along the way, he pulls away. It happened with me and my ex-boyfriend. Somewhere along the way, he pulls away. He pulls away. So he basically stops loving you. There goes the meat. But then every time he rocks up in the room, you are still panting. You are still thirsty. You are still salivating, for crying out loud. That's why they sometimes call us simps. Or that's why they sometimes call us, pygmies. They call us thirsty, whatever you want to call us. Like, you do anything to please these men. That's why we out here in these streets twerking it up all over a show. That's why, for instance, I spoke about Adele and how it is that Adele does not have to strip down even in the slightest, and yet she makes as many millions as Beyonce and Rihanna combined. And yet look at Rihanna and Beyonce, black women, stripping it down in order to do to get the exact same rewards as Adele. She is panting Beyonce in a way that Adele is not. The difference literally is race. The difference is race. Look at the hypersexualization of black women in the media. We have no love, and we feel as if though the way to receive it is to reduce ourselves into these licentious, mean-spirited, savage, and also sensual creatures that are there for the consumption by just about anything in these streets on the left and on the right. We sell ourselves cheap. It's that basic. We sell ourselves cheap, like in the worst way, as black women. And while there's a lot of cultural appropriation and mixing of all of these random stupid things that women are now today doing, the hypersexualization of women literally started with us, black girls. They hypersexualized us because we were made to believe that that's the only way, for crying out loud, that we're ever going to get affection. Why? Because of the fact that at some point in the relationships that we are in with our men, they stop awarding us love, but then men, they still keep giving us sex. And so then everything becomes about sex, about sensuality, about arousal in that regard, instead of you just being who it is that you are. So we feel as if though we have got to be super sexy in order for us to get anything, any ounce or inkling of affection. Women's desire will be for their husbands. We want love. And when we don't have it, we grovel and we pant for whatever alternative will be awarded us. And in the black space, it's literally just a whole bunch of fornication. And if not fornication, but it's within a marriage, it's still a cold, unserving, unloving, removed, emotionally absent husband and wife pair that are frankly roommates, except until the time when they have to have sex. They negotiate everything with sex. They make up with sex. They break up with sex. Like, everything is like there's barely any talking. And when we want to talk, they act like they're listening, but they ignore us because they are being given counsel, for crying out loud, to ignore us. They're being given counsel by each other. They sit in these man caves of exorbitant misogyny and chauvinism, and they revile the living daylights out of women until they convince even the best among them to become wicked. It happened in my last relationship. My ex-boyfriend literally classically freaking conditioned me until I stayed with him for 5 years. Do you know what rescued me from the bonds of salivating after a ticking metronome or a ringing bell, even though there is no love anymore in the room? Jesus. I got saved out of that relationship by the power of the Holy Spirit to not salivate after a man that had stopped giving me love. In the beginning of the relationship, he was respectful, mutually beneficial. It was. He wined and dined me. In the beginning, he was so sweet. Like, you know that song at Destiny's Child? At first we start, like, it's literally a black problem. At first we started out real cool, taking me places I ain't never been. But now you getting comfortable in doing those things you did for no more. You slowly making me pay for things your money should be handling. You trifling, good for nothing type of brother. Silly me, why hadn't I found another? A baller. When times get rough, you're supposed to hold me down instead of a scrub like you wouldn't know what a man's about. Can you pay my bills? Yeah, it literally starts like that. You start out with a guy putting his best foot forward, and then you get a shock attack of your life somewhere along the way in this ecosystem where he just withholds. And because of the memory of the love that you had at first, you keep on lingering, just like remembering that paired with that bell or that metronome was that meat. Pavlov's dogs. therefore still salivating. So you literally stick around in a relationship for 4 extra years when love ran out after year 1. The man stopped trying after 6 months. Not for me, it was 6 months personally. The man stops trying after 6 months, and you are still all up in there for another 4.5 years. Why? Because he has paired love. He has paired your doting response to him with his presence as he is awarding you love. And then he pulls the love out. But then he keeps on ticking the metronome. He calls you Nkaronja. Hey, Spotty, Spotty. That's how he calls you. And black women are eating it alive. Wankutla, you're eating it whole. For breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you are making it your full course meal. Your 3-course meal. They are just taking it. They are walking down the aisle marrying men that they are entirely dissatisfied with. Guys that they had better days with in the beginning of the relationship, but now they're getting married. They're getting married, and there is no such love left anymore. There's no such love left anymore. They don't try. Do you understand? They literally counsel each other. My ex-boyfriend was counseled by his friends to stop being so whipped where I'm concerned. I went from having the most loving guy in the world to having a dude that was literally withholding affection. There was a time when my tears used to matter to him. Like, I would cry and the guy would panic. He would thoroughly go into a frenzy, twist in the wind, wondering why you crying. Every time I would be just slightly sneezy or twitch a little as I'm sleeping, since we were fornicating. As I'm sleeping in bed, if I twitch next to him, he'd be like, babe, what's wrong? What's wrong? Are you okay? Are you okay? Stuff like that. And there came a time when my twitches, now he was just like, oh, whoa, it's like, stop. You're like an earthquake in the bed. I'm trying to sleep. I remember one time we had booked into this one hotel at Town Lodge, and I got upset by something he did. It was like the pitch of night. It could have been like 1 a.m. in the morning. And I stormed out, walked out, and left that entire hotel, right? And went like out of the complex and walked, and I expected him to follow me. I felt endangered by the fact that I was walking outside of the premises of the hotel at night by myself. I guess I feared things like robbery, muggings, rape, and I quickly ran back. And when I got back, my ex was on his phone while the television was playing in the hotel room. He completely ignored me, and that evening, that same evening, later, or not evening, sorry, they say it was early hours of the morning. That morning when the sun had risen and everything, I still basically rewarded him with sex again. Even though he had treated me like that, even though he was aloof, even though we slept upset, even though he never said sorry, even though he never followed me we had a fight, we had a falling out, we had an argument, he did not pursue me, he did not follow me to where it is that I was about to endanger my life walking these streets at night as a woman by myself. None of that, no apology, but still I had sex with him anyway. That later on that morning. Again, evidencing that we equate, used to. Now, I will call them they now because I'm no longer in that camp. But black women consider me arrogant for no longer being there. They equate sex with love. They make up and break. They make up with sex. They don't talk over issues. They just have sex and think that now it's eradicated. And when that is the case, as a woman, goodness, when sex is the only thing holding a relationship together, well, I mean, goodness, there's more where it came from, is it not? When you get older, when these guys start to salivate after colleagues, again, that was another thing that used to irritate the living daylights out of me when I was working at MTN. I could not understand why so many married men were flirting with me. It gave me such a bad taste in my mouth about marriage. Because I was like, Kante, I mean, weren't you guys in love? Like, you married her. Why are you flirting with me? Why is it so easy for you to flirt with my colleagues? With other chicks in the office that aren't married? You are making your wives look like these boring things that you are over with. You're done. You're finished with them. But when these women would come to the office to see their husbands or whatever, you would realize, oh my goodness, like this guy, Jabu, has such a gorgeous wife. Like, there is nothing missing. Even you would feel insecure in the presence of this woman that he is married to. And yet, in the office all day, he's out here twirling on chairs with other girls flirting with him. It just comes so easily, and that is something I made an observation of with black men. It was never like that with Indian men. It was never like that with white men. Every so often it was like that with colored guys, but certainly black men were the ones that flirted with everything that would flirt back in the office, to a point where you would wonder. And also another thing that was problematic, again, within the employment space with colleagues, the only men that spoke about their wives, and I am not even exaggerating, the only men that spoke about their wives were non-black in the office. Like, as in people that you spend every single day with this person. You sleep next to them at night. You have babies with them. They therefore ought to be on your speech quite a lot. Black men never spoke about their wives. They never spoke about their wives. Every so often, my white colleagues would be like, my wife this, my wife that. Oh my goodness, my wife said this the other day. My kids were this. Like, they speak about their families. They speak about their children. They speak about their wives. A lot. A lot. Indian men, white men, every so often colored guys. But black men, literally, kutulile, tumbleweed, like crickets. You will think this man is unhappy in the marriage that he is in. And that whole situation with black men not speaking about their wives was not the same with black women. Black women were always talking about their husbands. My black colleagues were always talking about their family lives. Like, always. The ones that were married with children, I was always hearing, my son did this, my son did that, oh, my husband did this, that, yeah, etc. But black men, guys, you would think this guy's not married, you would think he's single, but you would know he's married because he's wearing that ring. Plus, you know he's married, he's your colleague, so you know information about him, type setup thing. And it was always black men that were mum about their wives. It's almost as if though they were still spawning, like flirting. Habana lerato. They are unloving. That's what I'm trying to explain to you guys. Habana lerato. It's Pavlov's dog's experiment. It starts out alright because they gotta put their best foot forward, cause you to fall in love. Head over heels in love with them. They gotta cause you to fall in love. And so in order for you to fall in love, you're not gonna be dealing with some deadbeat rando in these streets. Do you understand? That doesn't want to show you affection. You've got options, for crying out loud. You're this beautiful woman that 20 other guys are trying to be with. So this guy is gonna try in the beginning. Mara after that, yes, like it. And they come in with all that attitude. They allow their friends to influence them out of what is sober and what is reasonable. They allow their friend, like, yeah. So if at all their friends are also influential, this man cave, it's like, when are you ever safe? When are you ever safe? And another epidemic among them is that they cheat on their girlfriends in front of their main girlfriends. Yeah. So there's like this whole side piece, main chick thing. All men across all races cheat. But in our community, it even gets given names, y'all, because they compare us to food. We be out your sides. We be out your main chicks. We be out your full course meals. We be out your being called jump offs and what have yous. And amaside piece wakona, the jump offs, not the ones that these guys are not serious with. Those chicks, sometimes they get brought in the presence or in the climate of the wives or the girlfriends. Like bringing a jump off to a meeting where all the guys' mateys are there, like a bride where it's boyfriends and girlfriends. I guess at the time when I lost everything, I had yet to be in a climate or a space of people where it's wives and husbands. Boyfriends and girlfriends were all at a bride. That would be a barbecue if you're American. We're all at a bride. And it's boyfriends and girlfriends that everybody knows. Like, people have been dating for 2-3 years, all of them. 5 years, 7 years. And then this like bugger will, without even a warning, rock up with some chick that don't nobody know, while the rest of us know who it is that is his main chick. And the way that black women have been so classically conditioned to salivate like Pavlov's dogs. The way that they have so taken in their stride the status of Pavlov's dogs. Black women, they all keep quiet. Nobody raises it. Nobody says anything. Perhaps maybe when you are privately with your own boyfriend, together now talking on some, babe, I mean really, why'd your boy bring such a thing? You might raise it, but otherwise, literally, it's almost like it's unspoken code or something. Nobody says anything. Everybody just allows these guys to cheat on us in front of us. And nobody is ever going to alert. Imedia Corner, the main chick, that girl, we know you. We've known you all along. And yet your man be out here rocking up in these streets with some strange little side piece. And he, like, all of his boys appeared to be content with it. It makes me wonder, Gresham, if at all these buggers don't bring side pieces when I'm not here. You will literally look at your boyfriend and be like, when I'm not around, do you also sometimes bring somebody that don't nobody know? And yeah, it's hush hush, it's mum. So we don't have protection as black women in each other. We don't have protection in each other, and we certainly don't have protection in these men. They take it for granted that we will just keep on panting and salivating at the ticking of a metronome or at the ringing of a bell, because they win us over with initial affection, following which they drop the ball, and we just gotta keep on hanging 10 because we're getting good sex or whatever. It is no wonder I'm therefore being pursued with so much sexual innuendo, with so much sexual imagery. It is no wonder they are pursuing me with this, because it's literally been working for them all along. They feel as if though if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. It's a tool we have used successfully for all of these years, so why Swanserazame? And it's running when there is an epidemic of no love in the black community. When black men do not love their women, what makes you think they're gonna love white women? What makes you think they're gonna love Indian women when they marry them? What makes you think they're going to love any other race of women? When I was working at MTN, there was this one white chick that was dating a black man. And this woman was always complaining about things that black girls complain about men. And all I could wonder was, I mean, you're this particular age, you're like, what, 28? You've probably been with other men before. What are your what do you have experiences that you can tabulate on a piece of paper as to the difference between of treatment with other men you've been with in the past versus this black man? And if at all you can see that you are significantly less well treated, why under heaven did you go on ahead and marry him? She married him. She married him. One of my girls was at the bridal shower and everything. She went on right ahead and married a man that used to give her all that grief. And I'm like, what? I don't know. You know, like, there's something about black men that they ooze, that they give off. It's like a je ne sais quoi, a spunk, a swagger that is very extremely attractive. It's drawing. I will not deny that much. And so maybe that's the reason why so many white women are like just falling all over the show at their feet, wanting to be with them. But if that's all you have to offer, that swagger, that style, that thing, that it kazang, but you're not actually loving, don't you think you're going to give the poor white chick some PTSD, given that she's never been treated like that in her own community? Don't you think you're going to give the poor Indian chick some PTSD? Don't you think you're going to give the poor colored chick batung? There was this one a friend of my ex's that what is this, was dating this one colored chick. Even my ex-boyfriend was concerned that she's going to one day contract HIV. Even he said that, yes, this guy's going to give this chick a disease. She was cheated on more times than could count on her 10 fingers and toes that she did find out about, and she stayed with him. And all I could think was, girl, have you been with colored men? Probably in the past you have. Have you been with any other race of men? Likely, because you're a colored chick, you probably started out in the colored community. How under heaven are you sitting this out when you've been better treated before? But that's just the thing. Black women always marry men. Not always, of course, that's like a broad generalization, but it really is quite a broad statistic. It's hard knock. They marry men that are not the best they've been with. That's what I'm getting at. They marry them because they came at the right time to propose marriage, and so they end up married. But they've been treated better before. They've been treated better even earlier in that relationship, and yet you're marrying a man that's dropped the ball. By the time you get married, he is 25% of the man he was at the beginning. 25. And you're marrying it. It's only going to go downhill from there. That's why it is so cold in their marriages. Gabanda. Agutandwa. And that's why these men don't even talk about them as colleagues in the office to their colleagues. Don't nobody know that this guy's married until it becomes clear that he's married. Don't nobody know that he's married until it becomes clear that he's married. Like proper. Like, it keeps happening. When I was working at MTN, there was this one couple that both of them used to work at MTN. The first person to work at the job was the lady, and then the dude joined later on. And this guy asked, like, Joe, oh goodness, it was just so frustrating. He used to, if you would allow him, he would flirt, never mind flirt, but go out of his way to actually shella chicks in the office. His wife worked in the company with us. She was in marketing, he was in marketing too. I was a project manager that serviced marketing. And this guy would, if you look back, if he stares at you and you look back, he will literally, next time he sees you, actually try to greet and talk and try to get your number and see if at all you guys can't go and have lunch sometime. Like, his wife works in the office, so she was being made a fool of. He used to do this with chicks in marketing. He used to do this with chicks in project management. Anywhere at all where it is that women would allow him to flirt, they would flirt back. Men walking around with entire chunky rings on their fingers. Black men would pursue you. You are just dropping off a document at the desk, and then he's like, oh, so what's your name? Want to grab some coffee sometime? Like, dude, I see your ring. That's also another thing. They literally, the way that they have so Pavlov dogs, socially, classically conditioned us to salivate after them even when there is no love and affection, they thoroughly imagine that they can drop the ball, dump it in our ecosystem of the fact that they're married. Like, you know, I'm married because I'm wearing this ring, and I mean, really, I work for the company, everybody knows here that I'm married, type thing. So when they pursue you with your knowledge of them being married, they frankly on that day flat out are offending you. They're insulting you by saying, how would you like to be my mistress? They literally just ask you outwardly, how do you feel about being a mistress? They don't even try to hide that they're married. They don't even try to hide that I just want to have fun. And the only reason why they don't hide it is because there are women that have humored that. There are women in our community that have known they're married and been asked indirectly, how do you feel about being a side piece? I will pay your rental, and gone on right ahead and done it. And so they insult the rest of us, thinking all that we salivate after kichelete or being doted after, the way that we're so parched of affection, anybody offering us even an inkling of affection, we will just take it. So they literally just asking us to be side pieces. They don't think that we get offended when asked out by them, by it just does not dawn on them. They have no respect for their women. That's what I'm trying to explain to you guys. They have absolutely no respect. They have no, there was this one guy on Angenzi when I was working at MTN. He used to harass me on the weekends. And I eventually told him, look, dude, leave me alone. Where did you get my number? I didn't give it to you. You got it on the Active Directory at work and you decided that you're going to contact me on the weekend. And now you're trying to force me to, he was using my Christianity, which is what I'm talking about, to try and make me feel as if though you owe me evangelism. And I'm like, you went and you dragged my number, you fished it out from the Active Directory at work in order to make me lead you to Christ? For real? I ended up sending him a whole bunch of names online to look for and links to YouTube channels of men in the faith that can guide him in godliness. And then I started ignoring every last text and call that he sent through until he basically got the point. He was a married man. He knew that I knew that he was married, and despite all that, he was thoroughly trying to have an affair with me anyway. When you persistently shella a woman as a married man and you have no regard that she is literally not trying to be a mistress. She's not trying to be a mistress. And the guy still persists. Black men do that to us all the time. They think we're so hungry, thirsty for love, that we will take being mistresses in our stride, side pieces, or if they're side pieces, in the room, that nobody's going to be telling the main chick. We lack loyalty towards each other as well as black women, so for those reasons, they also get away with murder. They have so succeeded to classically condition us to salivate after them even when they're not awarding us love, that like Pavlov's dogs, we are out here grunting and panting after bad men that treat us like trash, even at our own peril and even at the expense of each other as women. We help their cause along. We literally help them along. When men go into a cave and make a decision not to love you, why in the world do you support them? It's because you've been classically conditioned. And you see, in order for you to break out of being controlled, you're being pulled gango by Pavlov's experiment, you literally have to give your life to Jesus Christ. Because that conditioning is it's a brain disease. It's something that comes so deep into your spirit and latches onto you parasitically that the only way to extract it without killing you as a woman is by the power of the Holy Spirit. That's how I got out of a toxic relationship where I had been thirsty for my boyfriend's love for years. However, I remembered the first time we were together. I was literally holding on to that initial memory. I was holding on to the initial love that I got. The whole time I was thirsty for that initial thing, and all he needed to put forward to me was that initial thing. Just like Pavlov giving his dogs meat for the first couple of repetitions and then taking it away permanently, and yet however getting the desired response every time he rang a bell or the metronome ticked. I was Pavlov's dog, but I am now Jesus's sheep. I feel as if though that's a better animal to be out here in these streets. I feel as if though it is much easier to be a Christian waiting on the Lord for a man that understands that it is a man's duty to love his wife as Christ loves the church. And love, which is then what I'm about to get into, is very clearly described in the scriptures as one way and one way only. Go and read 1 Corinthians 13 in order to understand what love is, so that you can understand, black women, that you are not loved. And that black men, when you call yourself a Christian and you treat your women like that, you are not saved and you are not loving. You are not bearing the fruit of the Holy Spirit, one of which is love. Because love has characteristics. True love. 1 Corinthians 13 says nothing at all about sex. It says nothing at all about fornication. It says nothing even about sex inside a marriage. So it's not sinful against God, yet nonetheless it is being used in a sinful way against a person. Love has characteristics, and if they are absent, run for your life, women. Otherwise you will get converted into some kind of a menace, a monster, a beast. A menace, a monster, a beast. Like, you need to comprehend that this loveless space makes women bitter, so bitter that they indeed wear what it is that is the typical description of black women: angry black women. It makes out of us Lynn Whitfield in Thin Line Between Love and Hate. It produces what under heaven it is that I spoke about in the first part of this video: murderous women. It makes Cindy Mankaele drive a knife into the heart of Flaba. You need to understand, it produces monsters out of women. And these ladies, if at all it is not the men they kill, it is the spirits of women. It is the souls of women. It is the plight of women. It is the sorrow of women that they bury underground in favor of unloving men. And that risk that is being taken by black women It's threatening to exsanguinate our souls all the way into the abyss. And if at all this is sending you to hell, hitting the ground running, why under heaven are you not counting the cost of being a disciple, embracing singlehood in your stride if no other man wants you? Why are you not waiting on the Lord for a guy that has been prepared to allow the Lord to train him and drain the gunk out of him that he might be able to love a woman? A man that's actually intentionally working on loving his wife the way that Christ loved the church. A man that is not going to insist on putting a woman in her place by reducing her, minimizing her, making her something so tiny, so small, that upon suffering a severity of want and lack, she will finally take scraps of a wannabe affection just for any kind of a semblance of a normal life. At all. Rather than wait on God. I am being pursued by some pretty filthy, unloving men. Because apparently, allegedly, I am naive to expect what I am expecting. Why? Because so many black women take in their stride that which I got rescued from. They just take it. You see, just like classical conditioning, there's yet another way of training behavior in society, in ecosystems, in children. It's called operant conditioning, negative and positive reinforcement. Negative reinforcement is basically a system of rewards and punishment, where it is that you train a person's behavior by rewarding them for good behavior, or you train them a new behavior by punishing bad behavior. Either way, they establish a new kind of behavior. So when you ground a child, every time they don't do their homework, you train them to do homework. That is negative reinforcement. But when you reward a child with a new gadget, a phone, every time they do well in school, that is a form of training behavior too. It's called positive reinforcement. And the combination of both of them can build a nicely obedient kid. So just because it's called negative reinforcement does not necessarily mean that it's bad. It just means that it reuses punishment in order to train behavior in a person. Well, behavior can be either positively trained in or negatively trained in. In other words, it can be nasty little moral turpitude, or it can be virtue building. Just like with classical conditioning, it can be used for good or for evil. And operant conditioning is exactly how it is that black women have trained black men to stay so daft and unloving and frankly just unacceptable, insufferable. It is what has caused your men to be nightmarish in marriages and continue in this way, thinking that there's nothing coming for them, there's nobody correcting this, there are no consequences to be endured at all. By positive reinforcement, you have literally made these men imagine that their behavior is acceptable to be lingered long into the future by continuing to give them not only yourselves, despite them being miscreants of note, but also other women. You help them subjugate other women to significant tyrannies until they settle for them. So herein lies a bad boy being given a Christmas present anyway. Understand, you are reinforcing behavior positively in those men. You are reinforcing it in them positively to stay wicked, to stay, displaced within concerning their sentiment about their own women. They even go out of their way to praise white women above us, Indian women above us, basically non-black women above us, only for those same Indian, white, non-black women to come back and be like, my goodness, these are my experiences at the hands of black men. So they think they can offend us by using white girls in our faces until the same white girls are like, I can't. Like proper. We are being vindicated even by fed up white women who are with black men. So why under heaven are you not taking this in your hands? If you love your own sons, if you love your own fathers, if you love your own cousins that are male, if you love your own brothers, you will fix them because they are ruined thanks to you enforcing behavior that's wicked. You have literally rewarded them. Look at how women in my family have given my ex-boyfriend everything he ever wanted on a silver platter by treating me like trash. Here in Las Karabo, at 39 years old as a spinster, because I am being so badly treated, unable to go anywhere, not moving left to right, not even able to come up for air. I'm like a seahorse the way I am always underwater and galloping it at the same time. That's who I am. Yeah. My family members, my female family members, alongside my female cousins and my former friends have all awarded a very horrible man. His dreams come true. All these bad guys with their Korobela don't make sure she never gets married, make sure she never ever comes up for air. Make sure she's not okay. Yeah, they look at me not being supported by women and they just jump and celebrate. They are maintained in their wicked behavior by your positive reinforcement of that activity. And I'm doing everything in my power. One, goodness, what are the odds I'm gonna succeed? I'm doing everything in my power by myself to negatively reinforce change of behavior. In other words, I keep rejecting the living daylights out of them. No matter how much they whip me with korobela, no matter how much they stab me with silent treatment, no matter how much they stab me with sorrow, marking want, poverty, the blocking of my channel, the bereavement of my person with loads of sorcery that I keep on getting lambasted by, insistences on my person to embrace porn when I have walked away from such darknesses as those. They keep on slapping me with all that random darkness. And I come back and I'm like, just like I want nothing to do with them. I find them evil in the worst way. I don't want them. Despite using the same tactics that they have used on all of y'all that succeeded. And the only thing that makes me a cut above the rest, the only thing that makes me different in comparison to black women literally is not because I'm so good at figuring this thing out. It's because I got saved. It's because I got rescued from marrying a horrible man that was going to just decline from the very first point that he started at. He was already on a downward spiral, having hit rock bottom in light of the way that he was treating me towards the end of the relationship. And yet, if I had gotten back together with him, I would have inevitably married that guy, given him children, despite on our wedding day not being as loved as I was on the first day that we met. I would have been a woman parched of affection marrying a man because he proposed to me, because that's all we salivate after. Do you understand? In the black community, made to salivate after the fact that sex is good. Are you serious? Is that all you're running with? Good sex? Yeah, man. Anybody can motion in the ocean and succeed to improve sex in the bedroom, but it's not very many people, for crying out loud, that prosper to get loving a woman right. And so, work on improving sex if it's not that great in the beginning, but you, for the life of you, are not going to survive an unloving husband. You are not going to survive that. It's that basic. You are just not going to make it. They literally counsel each other to not love women. They counsel each other to disregard our cause. They counsel each other to ignore us, to walk us into reverse psychology. They gaslight us when we complain about things. They act as if though we're throwing our toys out the cot. We are steamy, we're heated. When you are frustrated, fighting, throwing fists into the air, and somebody's looking at you like you're a crazy little person, that you're properly just steaming, and you'll cool down. All that disregard of so much passion. How in the world do you think as a woman you're not going to finally burst or implode when you are being that ignored? When you are seriously and deeply actually upset, you are perturbed, and a person is just looking at you as this like frantic B word that's flailing around like a ball bouncing on the walls, and it'll eventually settle down. When they treat you like that, when you're angry, yes, like it, guys, I'm sorry. They just ignore you. Like literally, you're flailing your hands in the sky. You're 5 seconds away from blowing your top, and they treat you like you'll calm down. It's written in God's word that a gentle answer turns away wrath. The fact that they even put you in a space to be wrathful in the first place is problematic. But the fact that they don't even work on giving you a gentle answer when you're mad, that just says that they pride themselves in making you sick with anger. Sick with anger. Hence the terminology, angry black woman. And the sad thing is, we do finally calm down. And when we're calm, they come back and you are just sleeping with them again. You are just embracing again, cooking again, being the domestic servant again of a man that ignored you when you were almost, so like the cortisol levels in your body were so high that you could have literally gotten a cardiac arrest right there from all the anger within. But you survived because you're healthy, you're fit, you're always in the gym. You could have actually died from that level of stress. But you survived, and this guy gets to come back. He gets to come back. In daughter, that's gonna ignore all that anger, all that pain, all those tears. He's not even trying to turn away that wrath by giving you a gentle answer, but he prides himself in laughing at you when you throw your toys out the cot, because they consider them toys like you're a child, when you have got a legitimate issue that you are raising. I'm not trying to be married to that. I am not trying to be ignored more than I already was for a whole decade. I'm not about to go and marry a man that controls me with spurts, first of all. And secondly, is a psychological manipulator. He is the boss gaslighter in the room, in the game, the baddest gaslighter in the minute, and he's my husband. I'm not trying to commit murder. I said that in the first part. But all of your ladies have literally awarded these guys on a silver, unfortunate platter. You have awarded them bujotle bagago. You have awarded them respect and grace and mercy and all things good and nice and cushy like a nice little cotton candy cloud. You have awarded a bad Dennis the Menace all that respect. What incentive does he have to change? They feel like they can alter what you're thinking and who you are by simply ignoring you and ultimately causing you to grovel at their feet. They also pride themselves in teasing women, mocking them when they get older. Black men don't marry us. Y'all know that's a thing. They date us for like 7 years. 10 years go fella, you are jojolaring. They don't marry us. They make black women, they start dating us when we're 22 and they make us turn 30. They make us turn 35 single and dating. Just to jolanje. And then when you turn 36 or 7 or 8, still single. When you turn 36, 7, 8, still single, that's when they then start to tease you for being a bitter broad at that old age. When you are raising the things that I'm raising right now at 39 years of age, they're like, oh, it's a he's so ubit. That's black men for you. They call us bitter and they also call us old and in favor of young black women that they're about to endure to the same thing that we're going through, only for them to get to the age of 39. Saying the same things we're saying, but for today they're being praised. Remember, they're into classical conditioning like Pavlov's dogs. First award affection, then take it away. So they will award women affection in their youth, and when they're older they will treat them like they're nothing. When their mothers are that old, when their grandmothers are that old, when their aunties are that old, but strangely they treat their wives or their girlfriends or their ex-wives or whatever like that, like we're just finished up scraps. They make us feel so unimportant and so worthless when we get older, when they're the ones that delay putting rings on our fingers. They're the ones we start dating when we're just 21. But you are out just still dating the same guy at 30. Dating. Everybody has a job. Everybody's employed. Everybody can take out lobola. Everybody can quickly get married. But now, you are still a girlfriend. And now when you're 35, the same guy, you're still not married at 35. When he's the one that wasted all of your time. They're the ones that make sure that we get to those, latter years. Those advanced years. They're the ones that make sure that we basically become spinsters. Now, at some point when you're single and never been married, you start getting called a spinster instead of just single. They are the ones that make sure that we get converted into spinsters. And then they tease us, they gather into little man caves and say, look at you complaining, flailing your flag up and down. At 39 years of age, you still have standards. They literally look at women my age and they say, you still have standards, you're still waiting on that for cobwebs, girl. They will gather around you. You will still be waiting at that bus stop or skeleton for your perfect husband to come, because no such thing is coming. They are basically putting themselves in the mirror saying that we're so whack, we suck so badly, that a woman will wait an entire 12 years with none of us coming in sight to be the thing that she is waiting on God for. They basically massacre their own virtue and their own character by teasing us for being single at 39. But they don't see that that's what they're doing. They look at older women and they say that we are naive to think anything like what we expect is coming. And in so stating, that suggests that they can never be good enough to love us. That those among us who are holding fort, those among us who are unprepared to drop the ball on what we want, what we expect out of a man, which by the way is pretty basic in most other cultures. It's pretty basic in most other cultures. Like the things that women want across the world are the same as what black women want. And yet when we desire them, just basic love, basic affection, basic respect, basic mutual reciprocity, apparently, allegedly, we are aiming too high. Things that black women want. We want to get married nati, having not had any children before, and with our husbands having never also had any children before. And the two of us are going to enter in and start afresh together. I'm literally telling you right now, women across all races want that. But when we want it, we expect too much. Because apparently, allegedly, every black man by the age of 29 is a baby daddy of 5 different women. They just keep on making babies all over the show. They insist on impregnating their girlfriends before they marry them. And once they're married, they sometimes don't marry them. And so they've got this baby mama. And so once you get to the age of 31, 32, you just got to take in your stride that you got to deal with a guy that got a kid, or 2 kids, or 3 kids, or 5. And when then you're at 39, still wanting exactly what all women want. I just want a clean slate. Because I'm clean. I've never been married. I've never had children. They're like, yo, not 39. And then they enter into a man cave and do a whole big fat chunky YouTube channel where it is that they've got a whole bunch of black men, 1 million of them really, in the comment section talking about how it is that there's this 39-year-old woman literally waiting for kingdom come, because there is no such thing as what she's looking for coming. They are offending themselves. They don't even see it, because they say that they cannot be sober. They cannot be patient waiting on God. They cannot be what under heaven it is that the Lord fashions a man to be when he gets saved, because they are that incontinent, like a city without walls. Everything comes and goes. That they basically say that it is absolutely impossible to find a black man in these streets that's 35 without multiple kids, unmarried. That's 37 without multiple kids, unmarried. That's never been married. That it's impossible for a black man to get to the age of 40 just waiting for the bride he asked from Christ. They are saying that they cannot do it. Yet we are busy sitting around at 35, 36, 37, 38, 40, 41, 42, single, never been married. Black women, we that are like that. But among them, there's no such thing. So gushkuti vele bona, they are displaying good self-control. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. In saying that I'm expecting too much. And yet black women are sitting this stuff out. I keep rapping and rapping and rapping. I've exceeded my time limit in this particular video. But I want to read you 1 Corinthians 13. What in the world under heaven love is? Women. So that you can understand it's not sex. And when you don't have it in this fashion, or at least something close to it, if he's not loving you the way that Christ loved the church, if he's not listening to you that his prayers might not be hindered, he is not for you. And so you need to get out. Let's move to the next part.